Looking live at an empty stadium here at Ford Field, but we are here for our pregame show while the Lions are in Arizona. We are here broadcasting live from Ford Field, bringing you all the action and all of the analysis ahead of the Lions matchup with the Cardinals at 4:25. Hello and welcome to the Detroit Lions pregame show presented by Henry Ford Health System. I'm Tori Petry. Let's bring in the other member of our crew today, Anthony Bellino, who joins us from the Henry Ford Health System update desk. Anthony, it's great to see you this morning, and it's great to be hanging out with you on the pregame show.
Hey, Tori, it is always a pleasure. Excited, ready to go. Week number 3 is already upon us. There's games already happening right now. The 4:25 start, a little bit of a rarity for us here in our schedule for 2020, but very much looking forward to today's matchup between the Cardinals and the Lions.
Yeah, it's a rarity in the entirety of the Lions' schedule, but it seems not to be a rarity for the Lions to head to Arizona for a game. We've seen them do it the last 3 seasons in a row. Of course, the last time the Lions did it, it ended in a tie, so the Lions have a chance at a tiebreaker today. Let's take a look at the Lions heading on the road earlier this weekend as they traveled out to the desert. This is a look at the Lions boarding the plane to head to Arizona. There's head coach Matt Patricia. Anthony, it is once again very interesting to be here at the stadium while the Lions are not here with us.
You know, you should definitely be on that plane right now traveling, but it's great to have you here inside Ford Field, as always. You know, the interesting thing, anytime anybody says anything about traveling to Arizona, they always want to mention the dry heat. Well, there's some dry heat for you right there. Look at that suit.
I know.
And there's a story behind that one as well, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, he's that Trey Flowers suit has a painting on the inside of it. I believe it's a Starry Night painting, and I was just so impressed with his outfit when we saw the Lions post on social media, the road outfits. That was he's looking good.
You look good, you feel good, you play good, they pay good, or something like that is what Deion Sanders said. And if Trey Flowers, if you're a 44 long, I'd be happy to help you out. If you don't want to wear that one again, you can pass it on down. Trust me, I would wear it with plenty of pride. It's a long trip to get out there to Arizona, to the stadium. You have the time change and everything else, so it's going to be a challenge. It always is a challenge for any team in the Eastern time zone to head all the way west and try to get acclimated and used to it, because I think that traveling east to west or west to east, switching time zones, I think that's a very underrated part about being a professional athlete, regardless of what sport you're playing.
Absolutely. And you're looking at the Lions buses rolling up earlier this morning to State Farm Stadium, a scene they are quite familiar with. They've done it a few times. It's sunny and in the 90s in Arizona today. I mean, I think this might be one of the few times we can say maybe we had better weather this weekend than they did in Arizona.
It's always hot there. It's always hot in the desert. And I'll tell you this much. We have been blessed as far as this week of September weather here in the Motor City and all throughout Michigan. It's been fantastic. So it's been a very moderate fall so far, that's for sure.
All right, the Lions rolling into the stadium, getting ready for this matchup. We will find out today who breaks the tie that the Lions left off with the last time they were in Arizona. The team heading into the stadium to get ready for this matchup between the Lions and the Cardinals at 4:25 this afternoon. Let's take a look at some of the games that are already happening today. Anthony, you mentioned it. We've been watching games unfold as we've been waiting for the pregame show to start. Here's your out-of-town scores presented by BetMGM. Looks like the Bears are down to the Falcons right now, Anthony.
Yeah, that's a very big game because the Bears had 2-0, obviously an NFC North divisional rival. And the Falcons are 0-2 on the year after blowing a monumental game against the Dallas Cowboys. What a comeback it was for the Cowboys in that ball game. But the Falcons at home up 16, got to be feeling pretty comfortable there in the third quarter. Of course, we'll keep our eyes on the Vikings-Titans matchup as well. Tennessee went to Minnesota at 2-0. The Vikings yet to register a victory this season, 24-12. So that's kind of an eye-popping game right there, as you see it on the screen with about midway through the third quarter. So obviously always keeping our eyes peeled for our divisional rivals. But how about the score in the Buffalo L.A. Rams game? If we weren't believers in Buffalo, who were 2-0, welcoming in the L.A. Rams, who were also 2-0, that Bills offense really rolling, 28-17. They had a monstrous lead. They were up 21-3 at one point, but the Rams have fired back here in the third quarter, outscoring them 14-7. So a lot of good games and a little bit of a rarity that we would have 5 games in the 4 o'clock window. That doesn't usually happen in the NFL schedule, but there's 8 games in the early 1 o'clock slot, and then 5 games beginning at 4:05 with the Jets and Colts, and of course our focus being being on the Lions and Cardinals at 425.
And there's a really close game that's in the third quarter there between the Texans and the Steelers, 21-20 Texans right now. We'll see how that game plays out. Anthony, you mentioned it, several games in that 4 o'clock window. The Packers do not play until 8:20 p.m. tonight on Sunday Night Football. But Anthony, the one I am so looking forward to this weekend is Chiefs-Ravens on Monday night.
Am I allowed to ask you for a prediction of that ball game? Because I've gone back and forth nonstop. It's Lamar Jackson. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's a battle of the two top teams in the AFC. That's must-watch football tomorrow night on ESPN at 8:15. I cannot wait. I have no idea who's going to win. I kind of just leaning towards the Ravens just because they're at home and Kansas City has to travel, but it's Patrick Mahomes. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
I'm stressed out even thinking about it.
You go Ravens, I'll go Chiefs. So we'll reconvene next week on the pregame show and see who was right. That is definitely a prime time key matchup this week that any NFL fan would want to watch. All right, Anthony, we started doing this last week. Let's take a look at our fantasy focus. We picked a few players in fantasy last week. This week, of course, games are already going on, so it'd be cheating, really, to pick some fantasy players at this point in the day. So we will touch on the Lions a little bit later on. But for now, let's look around the league at the leaders in fantasy right now. We are looking at the passing leaders. Now, these are just for week 3. So clearly, Gardner Minshew has a little bit of a leg up because he's already played a game this week. That's from the Thursday night game. So those stats play into this graphic that you're seeing right now. Nick Mullins in for the injured Jimmy Garoppolo in second place, though.
Yeah, and I think that when we take a look at the live ones, right? So Gardner Minshew on Thursday Night Football, I was all in on the Jaguars in that game. I don't know why I ever doubted, Ryan Fitzpatrick. It was the beard against the Fu Manchu, and who was going to win the battle of the facial hair. I knew I should have went with Fitzmagic, but I didn't. I was kind of, I was believing too much in that. Now, as you see on the screen, the rushing leaders. How about Dalvin Cook already with a big game? 15 carries, 131 yards. My goodness. Tori, will we get a Lions running back with 100 yards today?
That is a good question. I think it's tough the way the Lions are set up to have a 100-yard rusher just because they take that running back by committee approach between Adrian Peterson, DeAndre Swift, and Kerryon Johnson. But Adrian Peterson almost had a 100-yard game in that first game of the season. So it's certainly possible. We'll see how that plays out. So that's your look at the week 3 leaders in rushing so far this week. Let's take a look at the week 3 leaders in receiving. Tyler Boyd from the Bengals at the top of the list right now. Allen Robinson from the Bears, he's up there as well. And then Calvin Ridley. He was my pick last week on the pregame show about who you guys should take out the wide receiver spot on your fantasy teams. And he played pretty well last week.
And he's doing it again. 5 catches, 110 yards. And you often wonder, how many times when you have a guy like Calvin Ridley, the benefit of being able to have Julio on the opposite side of the football.
Absolutely.
And we are going to get a glimpse of that with a Lions player making his debut today. And it's how do other wide receivers benefit from having a main target out there on the field like a Julio Jones? If you were in Cleveland, how do teams want to defend Jarvis Landry when you have Odell Beckham on the other side? Complementary football, it makes it more and more challenging the more weapons you have on the perimeter.
Well, you mentioned it. The Lions are getting a guy back this week that they have missed greatly these first 2 weeks of the season. That is wide receiver Kenny Golladay. So with that, let's take a look at our fantasy picks for this week. If you've got any of these Lions on your rosters, Anthony, who are you saying people should start?
Well, it's the man we're talking about right now. Let's go with Kenny G. Play the saxophone right now. Kenny Golladay. You see his 2019 numbers because this is his first appearance of the 2020 season, making his debut today. And this is going to be huge for Matthew Stafford and this offense because Kenny Golladay is the guy that whether he can get the separation from the corner or not, you could throw him a jump ball and he can go up and get it. We saw how impressive he was last season with those 11 touchdowns, with just shy of 1,200 yards. He's a primetime target, but I also look for guys like Danny Amendola, for Marvin Jones. I look for TJ Hockenson. I look for the rest of the offense to benefit just by Kenny Galladay's presence, whether he has 10 catches today or 1 catch today. Just by him being out on the field, that makes this Lions offense that much more difficult to try to defend. Tori, who do you like from the Honolulu Blue and Silver today?
Well, you mentioned it. Having Kenny back really helps out other players on this offense. I'm going TJ Hockenson. He has been consistent over the first few weeks of the season. 9 targets for him him and 9 catches. I think you should start TJ Hawkinson. He had a big week in Arizona in week 1 last season. I think he has a repeat day again today. But Anthony, you must be believing, you said he could have a 10-catch day, a 1-catch day, but you must be believing that Kenny Golladay does have a big day today in his return if you want people to start him in fantasy.
Yeah, I do. I think that Matthew Stafford, easing Kenny into this game, coming off of an injury, I think is obviously the smart play. You don't want to rush somebody back that's not 100%. So if the coaching staff and the training staff believes that he's good to go, I expect him to come out, guns blazing, all systems go, running on full cylinders. Any other cliche I could throw out there right now. Big day today for Kenny Golladay.
Well, that's who will be playing. Let's take a look at who won't be playing with your inactives presented by Henry Ford Health System. First, let's take a look at the Cardinals inactives. Quarterback Brett Hundley will be inactive today. Wide receiver Christian Kirk, that is a key one for the Cardinals. Anthony, he had a key play against the Lions last year in this game to bring that game to a tie and send it into overtime. So that's a huge loss for the Cardinals today. Yeah,
it's a big-time loss, and he hasn't really seen a whole lot of action this season, which I think benefits the Detroit Lions. But obviously, when you take away, as we were talking about, weapons and complementary football, the 2 guys that are going to be key for Arizona on the outside, DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald, with Kirk not being in the game, it's one less guy you're going to have to worry about if you're on the Lions defense. So that's a positive.
All right, and then you've got running back Eno Benjamin, a little bit of hometown action there, the former Arizona State star who is with the Cardinals now. Offensive lineman Mason Cole, offensive lineman Josh Miles, and defensive lineman Lakai Fotu. That's the Cardinals inactive, so let's take a look at the Lions inactives. Unfortunately, we will not be seeing Desmond Trufant out there again this week. That means more action for rookie Jeff Okudah. The Lions have also chosen to make Ty Johnson, the running back, inactive defensive back CJ Moore, who is a big player on special teams. He's been dealing with an injury. He will be inactive. Offensive lineman Logan Stenberg looks like he is a healthy scratch for today. And then tight end Hunter Bryant, he's been dealing with an injury over the first few weeks of the season. He will not be able to play today. Anthony, what stands out to you from that group?
It's got to be Desmond again, because with Awarrior making, it's only his second season, and then you have the young rookie Jeff Okudah making his second NFL game today. It's going to be a challenge, and we saw what happened last week with Aaron Rodgers and the way that he was able to push the football down the field. I personally believe that cornerback is athletically the most challenging position to play on the football field. Think about it. You got to start off every play running backwards, and it's not going to get any easier. If it was Devontae Adams last week in Green Bay, now you have Larry Fitzgerald, now you have DeAndre Hopkins. This is a tall task, so not having Desmond Trufant is obviously the big one for me, standing out because they need that veteran leadership. They're going to need some of that help out there. And the young guys, this is the baptism by fire. They're going to be learning each and every week and just trying to get a little bit better each day throughout their week of prep, because the task at hand to try to guard NFL receivers is definitely not an easy one.
Definitely not. We will have more on those matchups in just a bit. For now, we will send it to a quick break, but in a little bit, we will be back with Tim Twentyman and a live look into those warm-ups in Arizona. Don't go away. With fans staying home and staying safe for the start of this season, they've been given a unique opportunity to show their pride from the stands by purchasing a fan cutout, all while giving back to their community. Proceeds from the cutouts benefit Detroit Lions Charities, the team's charitable foundation that is committed to supporting transformational efforts in underserved communities, prioritizing critical support for youth development, access and opportunity, and social justice. We are proud to partner with Henry Ford Health System and prioritize the health and safety of our Lions fans.
Fans, as a reminder, as always, be sure to tune into Fox 2 each Sunday at 10 a.m. and then for Lions Game Day, and then turn on Fox 2 again tonight at 11 to watch Sportsworks and Lions Game Night for a complete recap and interviews from today's game against the Cardinals out there in Arizona. If you're watching the game from the Detroit Lions broadcast region, make sure you tune into your local Fox station to catch today's kickoff at 4:25 Eastern Time. And are you the ultimate Lions fan? Does your fandom go beyond just the game? As a part of the NFL Fan of the Year contest, the Lions are searching for one extraordinary fan who's a positive influence and inspires others through their love of the game of football. Visit NFL.com/fan of the year for more information or to nominate yourself or others for a chance to win a trip to the Super Bowl. And you can bring me right with you because I've got vacation time. And at each home game this season, we're recognizing select teachers as our champion of the game, fueled by Campbell's Chunky. We're counting on fans to nominate high school teachers who make a significant impact in their communities. Visit DetroitLions.com/champion to nominate a deserving high school teacher. And we want to see your game face today as well. You have the opportunity to be featured on today's show by posting using the hashtag DTEGameface and showing us your game day energy. Don't miss out on the opportunity to be a part of the Lions game day experience. Post now using the hashtag DTEGameface. Welcome back to the Detroit Lions pregame show. We'd like to thank Henry Ford Health System for being the presenting partner of the Detroit Lions pregame show today. Now let's send it upstairs to Tori Petry and special guest Tim Twentyman.
Thanks so much, Anthony. As you mentioned, Tim Twentyman joins me now on set to chat a little about the Lions ahead of this matchup with the Cardinals. Tim, thanks so much for hanging out with us once again in an empty stadium. Little interesting situation, but hey.
It's like last week. I'd rather be somewhere else.
Yeah.
But you know what? You deal with your circumstance, and we're going to give you guys all the great coverage anyways, even though we're not in Arizona.
Exactly. Arizona would be a nice place to be today, but we are
it's
making
nice
it work.
Outside, though.
I know. We've had a great weekend
nice
here in
September
Michigan. Yeah.
70s day we get every now and again.
Honestly,
hopefully you guys got some golf in this morning, and now you're settling down, ready for a little football game. So.
Yeah, probably a little bit better than the 100 degrees they're having in that dry heat in Arizona today.
I think last year, wasn't it 104
it
or
was
5
toasty,
degrees
yeah.
when we went there last year? It was really hot.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beginning of September. That's still summer in Arizona.
It was brutal. It was
Absolutely.
brutal. So the weather's nice here in Detroit.
Well, it still looks nice inside the stadium. You guys are getting a live look into warm-ups in Arizona. The specialists are out on the field getting in their pregame warm-ups. We'll be chatting a little bit more about this team as we continue here. Tim, let's start with the offense as we look at what this team has to offer today. I think the first place we look is the Lions getting A great player back on offense today, Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, and what a difference Kenny makes. And it's not just so much when he's catching the football. And obviously we know he makes a great impact there, led the NFL with 11 touchdown catches last year, but his impact with the other guys on the field as well. What he does for Marvin Jones Jr. on the other side, how he opens up the field and dictates coverage for guys like TJ Hawkinson down the seam. You have to pay attention to Kenny Golladay. You guys are seeing the numbers right there. 65 catches, 1,190 yards, 11 touchdowns. The important one there, too, is look at that average, Tori, 18.3. That was third best among all receivers last year. That's a threat. A defensive coordinator looks at that number and says, okay, wow, so he's big, he's physical, he catches better than 50% of all 50-50 balls. I need help. We need a safety over there. And so that's what I'm talking about when it's not just him catching the football, but it's what he does to everybody else. Now Marv gets that one-on-one look on the other side. Now you get TJ freed up against a safety going down the seam. And so that's the biggest difference with having Kenny back.
Absolutely. And you're getting a look at some of those receivers huddling up, heading out onto the field. Danny Amendola, Jamal Agnew, and Marvin Hall there heading out.
They all love having Kenny back.
Oh,
Every one of those guys loves having Kenny back.
I bet they do. I think there will be some guys who have a good day on offense today that are not named Kenny Golladay because of the attention that he draws away from those other guys.
Huge. And another big one, too, is having Big V back. And
Absolutely.
What that means for that offensive line. Look, he was a big free agent acquisition for them. And if you look at some of the analytics over the last couple of years, he was one of the best run-blocking tackles in the NFL when he was with Philadelphia the last couple of years. That's why they went and got him. They want to be balanced on football, or on offense, They want to run the football. And so getting a guy like that to kind of anchor that right side, and you can run behind him, that's also a huge addition today too, Tori.
Good news for Adrian Peterson, Kerryon Johnson, and DeAndre Swift. There you go. You see number 9 jogging out onto the field in Arizona. Tim, what should we expect from Matthew Stafford today?
Well, you need to have a better performance. And I think Darrell Bevell said it good this week when he said, look, Matthew's been solid. And you're looking the numbers here. A little low on the completion percentage for me. You'd love to see that number up over 60. Look, 541 yards. That's okay. 3 touchdowns. That's okay. The rating, I think that's 25th in the NFL. But the key one there is the 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
2 second-half interceptions that, led to 14 points for the other team.
Not just interceptions, but key moments in the game.
Key on your side of the field, and just they weren't good plays. They weren't good decisions. And a guy who's been in the league as long as Matthew, knows better than to make a couple of those plays. And so I think he's got to be a lot better today. Now, we talked about having Kenny back and how that will change things. Maybe we talked about the receivers loving that Kenny's back. Number 9 might be the most happy that his big play receiver is back. And, number 9's got to settle down a little bit, find the open guy. Now you've got all your weapons back. You've got everybody up front except Joe Dahl, who's on IR. But for the most part, this is your offense. This is what was touted to be the strength of this football team. This is what was touted to be the difference maker, top 5 in the league. Well, now we're seeing it. Now you've got all your pieces, so there's no excuses. Now there's this good Arizona defense, and it's we talk about Arizona all the time and Kyler Murray in the offense, but this is a top 10 defense that they've got in Arizona. Really good front 7. So I think Matthew's just got to start clicking on all cylinders. He's got his weapons back, so there's no excuses. He's got to play well. This offense has to score because those guys in Arizona, they're going to score.
Those mistakes that we've seen Stafford make over the first couple of weeks, do you think that can be attributed to Matthew trying to do a little bit too much?
I think so. I think there's some of that. We've seen him bring this team back so many times. And look, he has that gunslinger mentality. He doesn't mind making a throw in a tight window to bring a team back and make a play. But there's that, and there's not making a great play, throwing it into double coverage in your own territory, having the lead, knowing that you don't make that play, you punt it. Now Chicago's in a worse 2-minute situation, and they've got to press a little bit. Maybe it changes the whole course of that game. Not taking a sack where you're at the 30-yard line and you push back to the 40, and now you turn what could have been a 45-yard field goal into a 55-yard field goal. Just little things, I think. To your point, I think pressing a little bit too much, holding that football just a little bit too long, waiting for a receiver to come open, and not just dumping it out of bounds. Let's live to play another down, and let's make things easier. That's pressing, to your point. And so I think there's certainly been a little bit of that. He just needs to relax, right? Distribute the football to the open guy. You've got a lot of weapons. You hope you're going to be able to run the football a little bit better with Big V out there too, and running behind those 2 big guys right there in the center, Ragnow and Jonah Jackson. And so it's got to come together for this Detroit offense, and there's no excuse why it can't now that everybody's healthy and rolling.
All right, Tim, we did a fantasy focus segment before you came on, and my pick for today was TJ Hawkinson. I said fantasy owners should start TJ Hawkinson. He had a big day. I know. Tim is the captain of the TJ Hawkinson trade, and I picked him today. So, Tim, tell us what we should see from TJ in Arizona.
Well, hopefully Lions fans see a similar performance than they saw last year in Arizona.
That's what I said.
Where he caught 6 passes for 131 yards and had a score. But look at 9 targets, 9 catches. Look, 118 yards. That's a good average there. Look, he's been real solid. He's been their leading receiver through the first 2 weeks, and I don't see why that will change. I think, Kenny's going to get a few more looks, but I think Tej is going to get a few more looks down the field and down the seam and deeper, getting into some of those one-on-one matchups, some of those deep crossers where he can get up on a safety or a linebacker and use his speed and athleticism and size to create some separation, some space. We saw that early in Arizona last year. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some similar things this year.
Well, that was a fantastic debut for a rookie tight end that he had in Arizona last season. Tim, what do you feel like made him so good that week 1 performance of last year?
Well, I think there's a little bit of the unknown when you're talking about a rookie, and he didn't play a whole ton in the preseason, and so there wasn't a lot of film on him. And so you knew he was talented, you knew he was physical, and I think the Darrell Bevin Lions did a really good job last year of getting him in some really good matchups that he could win. Some matchups on some linebackers, and what they did is they saw it and they really did a good job of making linebackers run and safeties run across the field. They did a lot of those long crossers with TJ, and Matthew just led him, and he was able to turn the corner and go. And so I would expect you to see some of that too, and especially with Galladay, like we talked about earlier. They're going to be able to get some matchup pieces with TJ, and I would expect for him to have a big game today.
All right, well, 9 was able to find 88 in the end zone last season in Arizona. We'll see if he is able to do it today. Stick with us, guys. We've got a lot more coming for you in the pregame show after this quick break.
All for revitalizing Michigan through the health of its people. All for preventing illness as aggressively as we treat it. All for heart attacks stopped, cancer eradicated, and new life delivered. All for opening our doors, hearts, and minds for you. Henry Ford Health System, all for you.
The game doesn't end after a spectacular touchdown grab because there's always another team looking to punch one in. With NFL Red Zone from NFL Network on Xfinity, you get every touchdown from every game on Sunday afternoons, all season long. Watch every breakout star, every heart-pounding running attack, and every big-time defensive stop. Sundays were made for football on Xfinity. That's simple, easy, awesome.
Experience NFL Red Zone from NFL Network on Xfinity. Click, call, or visit today.
Welcome back into the Detroit Lions pregame show presented by Henry Ford Health System. I'm Tori Petry, joined on set by Tim Twentyman. You guys have been getting a live look into warm-ups in Arizona. We've kind of broken down the Lions offense and what we should expect from them today in the desert. Getting Kenny Galladay back is obviously key. That is going to be so important for them. And then we will see if TJ Hawkinson can have a repeat performance of what he did last year in Arizona. Tim, now I want us to turn over to the defensive side of the ball. The Lions have struggled on defense so far this season. Not a ton of bright spots to be able to look at. Who do you think will be key for them today?
Well, I think both those edge guys are going to be really important, especially when you're talking about a guy like Kyler Murray. I think when you look at this Arizona offense, they're at their best when their quarterback can throw the football but also run it and get himself outside the pocket. And look, he gets outside the pocket to pass too, not just to run.
Sure.
He's a smaller guy. There was a lot of attention, put to that on the draft. And so what they like to do with him is they sprint him out of that pocket and then set him up outside the pocket. Now he's got an open field of vision where he can look down the field, and we see a lot of those big chunk plays where they sprint a guy who's 4'3" out of the pocket, boom, restation him, plant his feet. Now he can survey the field, and they've made some big plays there too, but it also gives him the option to run. Look, he's the only quarterback in the Super Bowl era that's thrown for 500 yards and rushed for 150 in his first 2 games. He's got 3 runs of 20-plus yards. He's got 3 touchdown runs. So that's when they're at their best, is when he's doing both. And so I think the key for Detroit today is you've got to be really disciplined in your rush. And I think if Kyler Murray sits back there and throws for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, you tip your cap and you say, That's a great young football player. But if you allow him to throw in the pocket, then get outside the pocket, and then run for first downs with his legs, and that's what this offense wants to do. And so we talk all the time about defensive coordinators. What do they want to do? They want to take away what you do best. And so what Arizona does best is they feed all of their offense through their quarterback, both running and throwing. Make him just a thrower. And I think that's where you've maybe got a chance today if you're the Lions defense.
All right, so that front seven is going to be key when it comes to stopping Kyler Murray. He has been fantastic on the ground. You guys are getting a look at the secondary. So let's touch on them. I know, Tim, that you feel like this secondary is going to be important today, especially with the challenge that they've got in some of the best receivers in the league, DeAndre Hopkins, and of course, the long-lasting Larry Fitzgerald. He just never ages out of it.
Ageless wonder. You know, they talk all the time about, Adrian Peterson being an ageless wonder. But that guy
Arizona's
in Arizona,
got one too.
He's got one too. I think Matt Patricia had a terrific stat. I think he's got, what was it? I think you were on the conference call. He's got more tackles than drops in his career.
Wow.
Larry Fitzgerald. Imagine that. I mean, just think about that. As a wide receiver, he's got more tackles than drops.
Incredible.
He's amazing. He's amazing. And so now you add a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who I consider one of the top 3 receivers in the game. And then you've got a quarterback doing what he is. And, Drake's been a terrific addition in the backfield. And so it's all humming right now for them. And so, look, you've got to be creative as a defensive coordinator. You've got to take away what they do well. Look, you've got to have some guys step up and make plays. There just hasn't been enough of that. You've got 2 sacks as a Lions defense the first 2 weeks. And they're one of 2 teams that don't have a takeaway, Houston being the other one. You need a big play. When you're going on the road into this place against an offense like that, now you expect to score some points, but look, help your offense out. Let's get a big a sack, strip, fumble, pick it up on their end and set up a short touchdown. Let's get an interception, get a key play that can help your offense out. The defense just hasn't done enough of that the first 2 weeks, in my opinion.
Well, we're talking defense, but what you guys are seeing on the screen is a sight for sore eyes. Kenny Golladay catching some balls in warm-ups. Man, that is really good to see. But Tim, like you said, this Arizona offense is going to score their points, so the Lions have to be able to score some as well. The defense, though, has a tough task ahead of them. What role do you feel like that safety group, specifically maybe Tracy Walker, will play in stopping this group today?
Well, I think you've got to be really, really sound tackling. I mean, as a safety, you're the last line of defense. And we talked to some of the players this week, and they said, we're playing against a quarterback that's essentially a punt return man because he's a 4-3 guy, he's twitchy. And so I think with those safety guys, especially today, tackling is going to be key.
Okay.
Open field tackling especially. Now, they like to use a lot of those 3 receiver sets. I expect we'll see more there. But Tracy Walker was their leading tackler last year, 100 tackles. And you look at the start he's having now, and that's with splitting some reps with Harris. And so 11 tackles, 9 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss, the 3 passes defense. That's good. It's all good. And look, he's an ascending player in this league, but they've really got to be on their P's and Q's about tackling today, especially open field tackling. They got to be really good. They got to get those guys down on the ground because a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, a guy like Kyler Murray, he can make one guy miss, boom, he's gone.
I thought it was interesting, Matt Patricia's answer this week when he was asked about splitting the playtime between Tracy Walker and Will Harris. He talked about how they both really are starters in this defense. It really just depends on the personnel that they have on the field. Tim, help fans who may not really understand that concept so much understand Coach Patricia's answer to that question of why those guys are splitting time.
Well, it's certain packages, and like we said, they like to play 3 safeties a lot. They just like to have guys that can cover and tackle. This game is all about matchups, and offensively, they're looking for guys that you can match up a tight end on that can be a mismatch for you, or a slot receiver, something like that. Well, you look at a safety. If you get an athletic safety who's got size and can run, now he can match up against a guy like these dynamic tight ends that we see around the league with, some of the running backs who are terrific out of the backfield. And so I think that's why they like to play 3 safeties a lot. But I will say this about Will Harris. He needs to play better if he's going to continue.
Tough week for him last week.
If he's going to continue to take some, reps away from Tracy Walker or see the field more in those 3 safety packages. I mean, I thought he didn't tackle very well last week. He obviously had the 2 big penalties that gave the Packers 30 yards, in back-to-back plays there as they tried as they scored right at the end of the half. He's got to be better. And we talked to him this week. He said, look, it's a learning experience. I will be better. I plan to play better. And look, those guys on defense all around need to be better today because they have a tough task. They really, really do, Tori. I mean, I watched some tape on Arizona, and I was really impressed. They really understand Cliff Kingsbury's system. He's the perfect quarterback for it, and they do a terrific job of finding that one weakness, that one guy to target, that one mismatch, and they've got the guys that can take advantage of it. So you've just got to be really good all the way around for the Detroit Lions on defense today.
Yeah, this is no easy day for the Lions defense, and they struggled last week against a Green Bay team that was playing really, really well. One of the things they struggled in was stopping the run. They allowed over 250 rushing yards last week. That is something you cannot do this week. The linebackers, Tim, are going to be key in changing that statistic this week. Specifically, you mentioned Christian Jones.
Yeah. And, Christian Jones, I think he's a dual threat player in that he plays that jack position quite a bit as well. And so he can pressure the quarterback. But these linebackers, they have to fill lanes. They've got to prevent, the big plays. They can't have the missed tackle that leads to a big play that we saw last week. You look at Christian Jones here, 6 tackles, 4 solo tackles. He defended a pass so he can drop back in coverage and play to. The one on the bottom, I'd like to see a little bit more. If you're going to play that jack role, that's a position that you use as you're a pass rusher. You're that guy that stand up, 2-point stance. They move you around. They try to get good matchups with you. One quarterback hit, not quite enough for me. And I think all around this team has to get more pressure. You look at Aaron Rodgers last week. They pressured him on 6% of his dropbacks.
Not enough.
It's not enough. You let a guy like Aaron Rodgers sit there, pat the football, and all these guys running around. It's not going to work. And so they've got to be way, way better. They have to pressure Kyler Murray. But like I talked about earlier, you've got to be disciplined and you do it because it's a different kind of threat this week. You can pressure Aaron Rodgers and he can get out of the pocket, but he's getting out of the pocket to throw, and he's not a huge threat to run. You've got to be good about pressuring him, but also filling the lanes and not letting Kyler Murray get out to run, because now he can not only throw the ball 60 yards for a touchdown, he can run it 60 yards for a touchdown. So that's the different dynamic this year. And you talked about the linebackers. Again, that's where they have to be good too. Just like we talked about with the safeties, they've got to tackle well all the way around. Can't have missed tackles. Can't have guys hopping into the wrong rush lane, running into the wrong lane to stop a run. You've just got to play solid and within yourself and slow down and make plays. And that's really the key for the Lions defense today.
One last player we will quickly touch on with you on defense. It's a guy we've talked about every single game so far this season, Trey Flowers. You talk about getting more pressure on the quarterback, more hits on the quarterback. Trey Flowers is going to be important in that.
He's your best player on defense, and we talked about it last week. The second half of last week, he really picked up. And I thought week 1 he was really good. He pressured Mr. Trubisky, got a sack, got the strip fumble. I didn't think he was as good last week. I thought Green Bay did a really nice job chipping him, double teaming him at times. He just wasn't as effective, and he's another one for me. I think it all starts there. It starts with him. Like you're paying him the big bucks, right? You're paying him the money to make the plays, right? And so you're 0-2. Your back's against the wall. You're on the road. You're playing Kyler Murray. Everybody's talking about this offense. Well, now it's time for you to step up, right? Have a big strip sack in their territory that leads to a touchdown and galvanizes this defense and this team, right? That's, to me, what Trey Flowers has to provide. So I thought he was good week 1. I thought he took a step back, and so he's got to be really, really good today if the Lions want to be good on defense.
Well, the Lions defense definitely needs to galvanize this week. We'll see what happens today in Arizona. Tim, you talked about how important stopping Kyler Murray will be this week. Well, you know who agrees with you? It's former Lion TJ Lang. He joined us this week on X Factor presented by Xfinity to talk about which players will be the X Factors for each team, and he had an interesting pick for the Lions. Take a look. Hello and welcome to X Factor presented by Xfinity. I'm Tori Petry coming to you from Xfinity Studio, joined online by TJ Lang. TJ, you brought props this week?
I did. My lucky candlesticks. We need a win this week, Tori.
I hear ya. Well, we are here to talk about the X Factors on both teams this week. The X Factor that needs to play well for the Lions and the X Factor they need to stop on the opponent. Let's start with the Lions. TJ, who's your X Factor this week?
This week, I think we're going to need a big performance from Jarrad Davis. Arizona is really good at running the ball, not only with Kenyon Drake, Kyler Murray. They've got a lot of athletic players on their offense. You look at Jared Davis, this play that he made last week against Green Bay, this is what they need from him, being the middle linebacker, being the captain of that defense, kind of the rah-rah guy, shooting the backfield, shooting the gaps, not sticking on blocks and making a big play there last week's game. They're going to need a lot out of him this week against the run game, and if he's tasked with spying Kyler Murray, because he's their leading rusher right now, almost 80 yards per game on the ground by himself. So Jared Davis, the most athletic guy that the Lions have in the linebacker group, he's going to have a big task for him. But for Detroit, their defense to kind of turn things around, get back on page, he's going to need to have a big game.
Yeah, the Lions definitely need to improve against the run. They gave up over 250 rushing yards against the Packers last week. Let's turn the page to their opponent this week, the Arizona Cardinals. TJ, who is the player that is the X factor the Lions need to stop on the Cardinals?
Yeah, it all starts with Kyler Murray. He's obviously another guy that can hurt you in the run game, but we're going to take a look at what he can actually do with his arm. What I want to point out here is the linebackers. They fake a jet sweep. They fake a dive to Kenyon Drake. The linebackers suck up. Look at how wide open that receiver is, Isabella, there for a big 54-yard gain. Kyler Murray can do it all for this team. He's running at an alarming rate right now. He throws this ball about 55 yards in the air. He's going to be tough to stop. And Lions, you're going to have to correct a lot of things. You're going to have to get the pass rush going. You got to stop the run. You got to try to figure out. I think like Reggie Ragland said it best this week. Go out and play ball. You got the players to do it. Just go out there and have fun and play football.
Yeah, this is a Cardinals offense that has been much improved, like you said, since they met last year in that game that ended in a tie. Second year with Kyler Murray, second year with Cliff Kingsbury. Who do you think breaks that tie this week?
Well, I hope the Lions get back on track. And, it's been disappointing first couple weeks for those guys, I'm sure. Not the way they wanted to start the season, but it's a new week. Football, the good part about football is when you're coming off a loss, you got 6 days to correct it, and you're right back on the field. So if you're the Lions, make sure the slump ends now. Go out to Arizona, do anything you can, come out of there with a win, get the season back on track.
All right, TJ, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of X Factor presented by Xfinity. From Xfinity Studio, I'm Tori Petry. Welcome back into the Detroit Lions pregame show presented by Henry Ford Health System. I'm Tori Petry, joined now on set by DetroitLions.com's Mike O'Hara. Mike, we appreciate you hanging out with us. We're going to talk a little bit of Cardinals today.
Well, I'm always around to hang out.
You are indeed. All right, let's break down a couple of these players on the Cardinals offense. Mike, it starts with Kyler Murray. I know that's what Tim talked about. That's what TJ talked about, and you're going to talk about that as well.
No, absolutely. When you talk about a young quarterback starting to get comfortable with his game, you usually look at the passing game. But I was on their website, and I always do this every week. I get on the team's website the night of their game and all that. And what Kyler Murray talked about is his comfort level running the ball. And he said, look, I told you guys that before. When I get comfortable, I'll take my shots. And you look at the statistics, and I've got him right here. He averaged last year almost 6 runs per game. He ran 91 times. He's already run 21 times. That's 10.5 times per game for 2 games, if my math is right. And it is. And he's run for 159 yards. Now, here's one. He's averaging 7.4 yards per run, 6.6 per throw. You don't see quarterbacks doing that, but this is a different kind of a player. I'm not saying he can't throw the ball, but he is a magnificent runner. If you looked at, for example, if you saw his 21-yard touchdown run last week, it is a thing of athletic beauty. It's like a downhill skier. Just and bingo. Yeah, cut the tape.
He knows how to dodge a few defenders.
Absolutely.
He certainly does. And that rushing yard average is certainly an important stat for the Lions to pay attention to today. Mike, you were on the One Pridecast presented by MGM Grand Detroit this week, and you talked about Kyler, but it was interesting to me because you weren't very high on his passing ability, even though he's got some really good receivers.
Well, he's got good receivers, and look, he's got 2 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions. He's going to be a great player, don't get me wrong. But right now, I think you want to take away the run and make him throw the ball. I don't think that's his strength right now. Now, look, they picked up DeAndre Hopkins on a trade before the start of the season. He's got 22 catches. He leads the league in receptions. And with him is Larry Fitzgerald, who's 37 years old. He's in his 17th year. He's almost my age, it seems like. And he's still a productive player. He's had 12 targets, 11 catches, 6 first downs. That is really a terrific duo. Also balancing that is the running game, and another guy they got in a trade in the middle of last season, Kenyon Drake, has got 146 yards. So you've got two guys right there. You add Murray and Drake together, that's 300-plus yards rushing. It really is a dilemma for defensive coordinators like Corey Unlin. How does he stop all of that today?
Well, you guys are getting a live look into State Farm Stadium out in Arizona. These are the Lions defensive backs warming up. They have got a tough task in front of them today. Obviously, we saw earlier on the inactives list that Desmond Trufant will not be able to join the Lions on the field today. He is inactive. But you look at this group and what they have facing them today. You mentioned it, DeAndre Hopkins, a guy that the Cardinals went out and got during free agency, and then Larry Fitzgerald, as Tim talked about. He is evergreen. He never gets old, and these two are who these Lions defensive backs are up against today.
No, absolutely. And the thing about Larry Fitzgerald, look, he's a guy who's never a speed receiver, but one of the all-time greats. And you might remember last year, the Lions really have the game won. They've got a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter, and on 3rd and 14, Murray hits him with a 41-yard pass. 3rd and 14, incomplete. The game's over. Absolutely over. It's deep in their territory, but he found a way to make a play on both ends of it.
You're right.
Kyler Murray found a way to get on the ball. Larry Fitzgerald found a way to catch it, found a way to get open. That's what you're contending with. You're contending with a young, great player and a veteran who still makes great plays.
Absolutely. And just look at those averages between those two players. 10 yards a catch for DeAndre Hopkins, 7.5 for Larry Fitzgerald. DeAndre Hopkins has a touchdown there, 219 yards as well for Hopkins. So those are definitely going to be the guys that these Lions DBs are going to need to look out for. Jeff Okudah, especially in his second start.
No, absolutely. And, I think last week might have been his preseason game. Now, it counted, don't get me wrong, but he hadn't been on the field.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right. He hadn't been on the field with, against an opponent since he played for Ohio State in the playoffs a year ago, which seems like 100 years ago, given all the stuff that's gone on this season. But you can't, I really think it's asking an awful lot for just like a supernatural, like Lem Barney we talked about, come in his first game and get an interception, return it for a touchdown. But Jeff Okudah, put that game behind you. That's one game. There's 15 more to go after that one. Not for him, 14 more to go. Just play today. Play today's game. Don't worry about last week's.
Duron Harmon hyping up that secondary group, getting them ready for this tough task ahead of them today. Mike, we talk a lot about the Arizona Cardinals offense, and for good reason. This is one of the better offenses in the league. But we don't want to miss their defense. Their defense has been doing a lot of good things so far this season. Mike, help us understand what this Cardinals defense brings to the table.
Well, it's been a group effort so far, too. Look, they're 4th in the league in points allowed, 3rd in sacks. They had 7 sacks, but 7 sacks by 7 individual players. The Lions have 2, by the way, by individual, one each. But, they've been a really good player. Now, if there's a guy to watch there on that defense, and there's more than one, but look at Chandler Jones. Once again, another guy they got in a trade. They've really hit it in the trade market. They got him midway through the 2016 season. Tori's had double-digit sacks every year with the Arizona Cardinals, and he had 19 last year. Now, he's got 1 after 2 games. You know what that tells me? He's ready to break out. So you've really got your hands full keeping him off your quarterback.
Absolutely. You're looking at the stats right here. 53 tackles last season, 19 sacks, 8 forced fumbles, and 3 fumble recoveries. He is a guy that head coach Matt Patricia is very well familiar with, and hopefully will have a great game plan against today as the Lions take on the Cardinals at 4:25. Guys, we will have more for you in the pregame show in just a bit. Don't go away.
All for revitalizing Michigan through the health of its people. All for preventing illness as aggressively as we treat it. All for heart attacks stopped, cancer eradicated, and new life delivered. All for opening our doors, hearts, and minds for you. Henry Ford Health System, all for you.
At Priority Health, we're embarking on a new normal, embracing the changes needed to keep Michigan safe. While that may look a little different for everyone, Priority Health is here to help. With access to the care you need, the doctors you want, and the quality coverage you can afford. So you can get back to this, and this, safely, steadily, and with the smartest health coverage possible.
Welcome back into the Detroit Lions pregame show. I'm Tori Petry, joined on set here at an empty Ford Field by Mike O'Hara. The Lions are in Arizona, about to take on the Cardinals at State Farm Stadium for the third year in a row. Last time around, it ended in a tie. Mike, what do you feel like the key is for the Lions to take home a win today?
Well, don't have another tie if you want to take home a win. But
Fair.
That's pretty simple. No, look, play 60 minutes of football. Guys, just play football. You guys have been playing football since you're 8, 9, 10 years old. Just get out there and play. Don't get all wrapped up in mistakes and all that. But just play the game. And turnovers, sacks, we've talked about that. One leads to the other. If you get pressure on the quarterback, you start hitting him from his blind side. You make him rush. You get tip balls. You get high throws. You get late throws. You get early throws. All of that stuff. I don't think there's anything more important in football than pressure on the quarterback, because they can just destroy their game plan. Now it's hard to get with a guy like Kyler Murray, because he can run away from you. And finally, cut down mistakes. We saw the penalties last year. It's not how many you get; it's the kind you get and the volume you get. These 15-yard penalties, they just absolutely kill you. And once again, when I say cut down the mistakes, I'll reference again the 3rd and 14 in the fourth quarter, the 41-yard pass to Larry Fitzgerald. You cannot have breakdowns like that. Absolutely not.
I want to expound on a couple of those things that you mentioned, Mike, a couple of your keys. Playing 60 minutes. It is something that the Lions have not been able to do in these first two games. We saw a fantastic first quarter from the Lions last week against Green Bay. We saw a really great closing to the half and an opening of the second half against the Chicago Bears, but they have not been able to put it together for 4 quarters. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think also, and exactly what you said to add to it, I also think there's been an intensity lull there. Absolutely, the end of the second quarter last week against Green Bay, and then coming out and letting that 75-yard run for a touchdown, it was just demoralizing. It should be, but you know how you don't get demoralized? Don't let it happen. Real simple. Play good football.
Yeah, don't ride the wave of the game is how Matt Patricia has worded it this week. You're taking a look into pregame warmups. That was number 9. Here's a little bit of a peek at the rest of the team. They are gathering together, getting ready for this matchup against the Cardinals. Mike, another thing that you mentioned today was that the Lions have got to win the turnover battle. They have not been able to do that in either of their games so far this season, and it's tough to win games when you are behind on the turnover ratio, right, Mike?
Well, you're not going to win the turnover battle unless you get turnovers, and that was their weakness last year. They had 7 interceptions as a team, and they were down the list on turnovers. They were also down the list on sacks last year, and they haven't improved that. So, look, it's not going to just turn around. There's Bubba Baker from the 70s and 80s isn't going to come walking through that door, or any of those guys who are really great pass rushers. Play with what you have, but you've got to find a way to do it. It's that simple. It sounds simple. It's not. It's a hard game out there, but that's formula. Sacks, turnovers, get the ball, you'll win the game.
Well, and your final key was that the Lions need to cut down on mistakes. We saw far too many of them last week, whether they were in the form of flags, whether they were in the form of missed tackles. There were just a lot of them last week against Green Bay, and they certainly can't expect to win against a high-powered Cardinals offense this week if they do that again.
Right, and the 75-yard touchdown run on the first play of the third quarter, it's almost like the coaching staff of the Green Bay Packers said, look, we've got something really good. We know it's going to work. We're going to run it on the first play of the second half. They did.
Yeah, it did. It worked, and that was certainly a mistake allowing that play to break free. It contributed to the Lions allowing over 250 rushing yards last week against the Packers. Hopefully they are able to stop the run this week against that rushing attack from the Cardinals, led by their quarterback, Kyler Murray. Mike, thanks so much for your insight. We appreciate you coming on set with us, but you guys don't go away, because we've got more for you in the pregame show, including your Ford starting lineups and your Gatorade game trailer. We'll be back in a bit.
To honor all the brave men and women stationed around the world who protect our freedom here at home, the Detroit Lions and Kroger invite you to submit nominations for your hometown heroes. Submit your nominations today at DetroitLions.com/hometown heroes for a chance to be honored this season.
All day, fans have been submitting photos showing their game day energy using the hashtag DTE GameFace. You can see fans from all over getting ready and set to go for today's game at 425 in Arizona. Thanks again to all of our fans who are part of today's DTE GameFace. Just another reminder, we are incredibly grateful to the Henry Ford Health System for being the presenting partner of the Detroit Lions pregame show today. Make sure you tune into the home of the Detroit Lions after the game, WJR AM 760. You'll get the latest info on the game, plus hear from Coach Patricia and many of your favorite players. That's Lions postgame show on WJR AM 760, the radio home of the Detroit Lions. And this season, there are even more ways to get into the game, thanks to Lions Bingo presented by BetMGM. Lions fans can play along for free all season long for the chance to win great prizes, including the grand prize each week of a weekend stay at an MGM resort location. Just download the official Lions mobile app and register to play Lions Bingo each and every week. Play along during the game, and once you hit bingo, you score courtesy of our friends over at BetMGM. Learn more and lock in your Lions Bingo board before kickoff by visiting the official Lions mobile app now.
It's time for your projected starting lineups today, presented by Ford. Let's take a look at who will be starting for the Lions on offense today, starting with that offensive line. At offensive tackle, Taylor Decker. Offensive guard, Ode Ibushi, filling in for Joe Dahl, who is on IR. At center, Frank Ragnow. Right guard, Jonah Jackson. And right tackle, Halapulavati Vaitai returns for the first time this season. Okay, let's take a look over at your running backs and receivers, led by wide receiver Kenny Golladay, making his 2020 debut today. Tight end TJ Hawkinson, who had a big game in Arizona last year. Running back Kerryon Johnson. Wide receiver Danny Amendola. And finally, wide receiver Marvin Jones Jr. That offense is led by your quarterback, number 9, Matthew Stafford. All right, we're going to get a chance to see all of these guys in action in Arizona in just a bit. So let's get hype for this game, shall we? Let's take a look at the Gatorade game trailer.
I would say for us and the Detroit Lions, I think we're just trying to make sure that we're a tough football team, and we have that defined, and we want to play at a high level. We want to be competitive. We'd like to be a smart football team, which is something we're still working on. And really for us right now, it's just being consistent.
On game day, man, we got to go to the next one. We got to go to the next one and make the next play work, whether we made the last one work or not. And that's the one thing to do, is just go in there, work hard, be on your assignments, and then when you get your chances to make plays, go make them.
We have a foundation now that we can build on, and these guys can start to grow and develop together as a team and push forward, cultivate all of that we talk about.
We're all focused, locked in on trying to get the win. You just got to start playing ball better. That's plain and simple, really. Just
it's a long season. There's 14 more games out there. Who to say we're going to go 14-2? There's a lot of football left. The only thing we can focus on right now is correcting the things that we did bad in those games and becoming a better team overall. That's been the focus this week, getting ready and preparing for Arizona.
Every single day, come in, work hard, get better and improve, and keep that blue-collar mentality. I think what's so important to this area. This area is a hard-working, blue-collar town. I mean, that's what it is. It's tough. There's a lot of things that this town has overcome, and the adversity that has come through Detroit. The city and the team. They battle through, and in the end, they persevere. And we just got to keep doing that, because at some point we'll get all that, we'll break through, and when that happens, it's going to be pretty exciting.
All right, I am feeling hype for this game after that Gatorade game trailer. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Detroit Lions pregame show presented by Henry Ford Health System. We appreciate you hanging out with us before this game at 4:25 between the Lions and the Cardinals. We will see if the Lions can grab their first win of the season in Arizona today. Make sure you tune in to the game, which will be on Fox. Be sure to check your local listings to see what channel that will be on for you guys. Tune in to that game if you are in the Lions regional broadcast area. All right, guys, we appreciate you tuning into the pregame show. Make sure you come back here for the postgame show. We'll be broadcasting live from Ford Field here as well. Until then, we will see you as we cover this game on social media. Tune in to DetroitLions.com. We'll have all your coverage of the game from there. And we will see you after the game for the postgame show. Thanks, guys, so much for tuning in.